I'm honestly shocked at how many mute swans are in the state of New Jersey. I've never seen so many mute swans in one day in my life. In terms of birding in the United States, spring migration is one of the biggest highlights. While there are many places where the migration is great, one that is often held in extremely high regard is Cape May, New Jersey. Located at the most southern part of the Garden State, Cape May juts out into the Atlantic Ocean, making it an absolutely fantastic place for birds to stop over during their migration. We went to Cape May in mid-April to see what this major hotspot is really like.
Hey everyone, this is Derek and Ryan from Badgerland Birding. Today we're at Cape May Point State Park, and this is an iconic birding destination. There's a really pretty drive-in. There's tons of purple martins around. I think we're really gonna love it here.
Yeah, we're excited to take a look at the ocean, and as Derek said, there's just tons of purple martins around. They have boxes up, so I'm just hearing them from almost every direction, but should be some cool species here. Hopefully we get some migratory birds as well, and just have a good time at the park. Cape May is at its peak when the warblers are making their way north in May, but we were still excited to see what migratory species were already here. We spent some time watching the many purple martins in the martin houses, and then made our way to the beach. Once we got a view of the ocean, we immediately started spotting birds, as well as other interesting things on the sand.
We just had a flyover ibis. We're hanging out on the beach, checking out this interesting bunker-looking thing that we found. So curious about that, and then we'll probably hit some of the other areas after this.
Got some laughing gulls on the beach. We did have that flyover ibis. Not seeing any shorebirds yet, but who knows what could come in. Really anything that's along the ocean could just show up, including gannets, different gull species, just different migratory birds. So keeping a lookout at the beach. We kept walking, keeping an eye out for birds near the surf and in the vegetation up from the beach. We found numerous northern mockingbirds, a well-hidden white-throated sparrow, and many flying ospreys. Eventually, we ended up face-to-face with Port Miles Battery 223. Battery 223 was created to fortify the eastern shores of the U.S. when there was a legitimate risk of foreign invasion during World War II. Once the threat was over, the battery was decommissioned, but still sits on the beach as an interesting historical site.
The battery here is really cool. There are actually some fish crows hanging out on it. There was an osprey that flew by, but the beach is kind of quiet, so I think we're gonna go towards some of the more interior parts of Cape May.
Before getting too far from the beach, we ran into some researchers who pointed us in the direction of unique shorebirds.
So we ran into some friends of the program that are actually doing some research out here. So they showed us where some of their oyster catchers are hanging out. So we got to come and look at the pair that is closest to us. We also found some lesser blackback gulls as well.
American oyster catchers are extremely distinctive looking shorebirds. They have a white underside, a brown back, and a dark brown to black head. Some of their most notable features are their large orangey red bills and bright yellow eyes, complete with red eye rings. American oyster catchers truly are birds of ocean coastlines. They can be found year-round along the shores of northern Mexico, as well as the Gulf Coast of the United States, and a large part of the East Coast. In summer, they move farther north up the Atlantic coast, and in winter, they move south into parts of Florida and the various islands in the region. In the American oyster catcher's range, look for these birds on sandy beaches, barrier islands, rocky breakwalls, and mudflats. Oyster catchers are aptly named, as they primarily feed on aquatic invertebrates, most notably different types of mollusks, such as clams, mussels, and of course, oysters. They hunt by sight, looking for prey as they walk along beaches and oyster beds, but they will also probe the substrate in search of things like razor clams and marine worms. Due to the fact that they don't typically make it into the interior of the country, American oyster catchers always feel like a treat to see when traveling somewhere bordered by ocean. We spent some time watching the American oyster catchers that would most likely be summering on this beach. They eventually came closer, allowing us some very clear views of these coastal shorebirds. I just think oyster catchers are some of the coolest birds, and it's really neat to be able to get to see these two up close, in addition to the lesser blackback gulls, which are also really neat species. But just something about the oyster catchers' bright eyes and then that big orange bill is just super cool to me. So I'm probably going to get a little closer to them and take a nice look at them. After watching the oyster catchers for a while, we finally moved into another section of the park. Got some cool stuff at the beach, so now it is time to see if we can get some warblers and sparrows. Anything that is coming through that's a perching bird, basically, is our new target. We passed by a pond where we found mute swans, a notable New Jersey species, some terns, and a migratory sparrow.
We just had a field sparrow, which I think is a new bird for the state. Might be the first year, actually, because they're not in Wisconsin really yet. That's cool. Always a good bird to find.
Having found a few interesting migratory bird species, we checked one more habitat to see if anything had moved in.
We headed into some of the forest habitat. It's very quiet in here right now, but we were saying during migration this place is probably popping. There's a lot of awesome habitat for different species like warblers and other migrants to be here. So even though it's a little quiet, I think during the right time of year this is awesome.
Having some pretty good success at our first stop, we drove a short distance away to a different habitat. We're at the South Cape May Meadows Preserve now, and we're going to just walk these trails for a little bit and see if we can find anything different. It looks like there's a lot of habitat out here, so hopefully we can turn something else up. We walked a trail through some shrubs and marsh habitat, finding a great egret, as well as a few other waterbird species.
Just got an American coot and some blue-winged teal. So we're seeing a couple new things in here.
I'm honestly shocked at how many mute swans are in the state of New Jersey. I've never seen so many mute swans in one day in my life. We kept walking until we reached a beach, where we found a few more American oyster catchers and an osprey. We scanned the rest of the area and found a few more common birds, but with our time running low, we moved on to our next adventure.
So we're gonna head out from Cape May. I'm really glad we got to come here and see some of the cool birds that this place has to offer. I wish we had more time, and I'm sure this place is really popping in spring because the habitat is absolutely incredible. But even though we didn't see a lot of those migratory species, we still had a great time, and it's such a beautiful place, so I definitely recommend it to anyone visiting New Jersey.
Cape May proved to be an absolutely beautiful location that even in the earlier part of migration had some amazing birds to find. Unfortunately, we didn't have nearly enough time to explore everything, nor were we there at the time when migration is supposed to be at its peak. Still, it was a very enjoyable experience, and we will have to come back again to see what this notable part of New Jersey has to offer. If you liked this video, take a look at one of our other videos about birding in the Garden State. And as always, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on Badgerland Birding.